Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast, where trauma survivors become healthy thrivers. Each month, we'll feature a theme in the trauma recovery and empowerment field. To promote your recovery, healing, and learning how to build dreams, here's your host, Karen Robinson, transformational coach and therapist.
If you have suffered from emotional abuse of any kind, then your story is my story too. My name is Gina Coviello, and I know how it feels to be betrayed by people who are supposed to love you. I know the emotional pain of feeling utterly alone in the world, unable to feel safe with others. Embracing self-love changed my life and my relationship struggles. Self-love can do the same for you. Please join me on a path of healing through self-love. My story is your story too.
Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast. Today, my guest is also a friend, and her name is Tiffany Cruickshank. Tiffany wears many hats. She's a founder, a co-owner, and an instructor. She has been in the health and wellness field for the past 8 years after a 32-year career in the restaurant industry. Tiffany loves to teach Myofascia, I always mess up that word, yoga, blended classes, restorative, and crap, Tiffany. Why these hard words in your bio? Why? I've heard this too before. Vinyasa?
Vinyasa.
Vinyasa flow classes. Now, those of you who've been listening for a while, you know I normally screw up people's names, but sometimes those tricky words there for me trip me up. Anyway, that is only a very small piece of what Tiffany does. She is the travel business your co-owner with your spouse. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you're the founder of, remind me the name, something tree.
Are you talking about Team Referral Network?
Maybe. Well, how many companies do you have, Tiffany? Maybe we should start there. 3? Okay. Yeah, I'm going to stop talking and let you maybe briefly talk about all 3 of those, like just briefly.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. Thank you so much, Karen. I'm really happy to be here with you today. So I started my career of 32 years in the restaurant business, and I worked my way up from assistant manager up to vice president the last several years. And I was traveling the world, opening restaurant concepts throughout the world. My last few stops were opening restaurants in the Middle East, which was an amazing experience, and I'm really grateful. I also own, with my husband, 3 businesses. Team Referral Network is a franchise business. We build and grow referral networking chapters, and I have chapters in Northern Colorado, Southern Wyoming, Southern Washington, and the whole state of Oregon. We own a travel business, Boutique Adventures by the Martins. And really that came out of my yoga studio. My yoga studio I've owned since 2018. I used to have this beautiful studio, and then COVID. And we pivoted to online and just chose to stay online. And the reason we did was I realized that the expenditure traveling back and forth to the studio and time to set up and so on and so forth, it was adding on about an hour and a half to each of my classes. So if I'd go for 1 or 2 classes, add an hour and a half. But with my studio in my home and building this, nummy little nourishing place, I have, a couple of minutes. So I go in usually 5 minutes early and log on. So that's really how I got started with my yoga business. And the travel agency, which came out of the yoga business, is because I planned a lot of retreats. So because I was already planning them, it made sense to why not be a licensed travel agent so that I could, use the 2 for 1 deal.
I love the eclectic background that you have. And also, I believe I read that you do a lot of health coaching. So I'm guessing nutrition is also a part of that.
Yeah. So my bachelor's degree actually is in home economics with a nutrition focus from North Dakota State. So I spent 4 years really studying nutrition and staying kind of in deeply embedded in that. But when I came out of that, when I graduated and came out, I'd moved to LA and really struggled to find a job in that field. So out of I don't want to say desperation, but I would say desperation, right? Like I need money. I took a job in the restaurant business, and that's where my career just really flourished, and I really grew and expanded through that career of 32 years.
Yeah, it's a long time to be married to a career, right?
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, so I think now, like the big reason that Tiffany is here today is she's partnering with me, or our 2 companies are partnering together. So Heal, Thrive, Dream this is our first time holding a retreat, and the reason we're partnering with Tiffany's company is I didn't want to have a floppy first retreat. I wanted it to start out with a bang, like just really beautiful, healing. And so what a great marriage to bring my skills and Stephanie's skills together to offer a retreat time. And Tiffany helped find the place, or she did find the place is a more accurate way to state it. She knew I wanted to do the first one in Virginia, not too far from where I live, just to get me going. So Tiffany, I know you and I talked about having a few secrets about the retreat to make it a surprise. but maybe you could share a little bit of things that are more public about what we're offering people.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about retreats, and I'll just tap on that, Karen, because one of my favorite things about what I do on my retreats is to keep a little bit of surprise, a little element of fun for the retreat participants. And I think all of my retreat participants that have practiced with me over the years really know that's kind of their favorite thing, is like, what's coming next? What's coming next? And so Karen and I have really thoughtfully planned through some real exciting treasures. I'm going to say that. But what we can tell you is really this is about bringing together women in community and creating this safe, yummy place where we can share, where we can grow together, and where I will be teaching the yoga. I am a trauma-informed yoga instructor, so I will teach that and really work with movement and mindset, mindfulness, and then Karen will bring in her elements of numminess as well. So it was such a perfect marriage of our two businesses to be able to start co-creating these, and I'm really looking forward to not only this one, but doing many more with you.
Awesome. Yes. I know we talked about this one in Virginia and possibly Wyoming ranch there and maybe something international. Maybe I shouldn't say just in case we change our minds, but we plan to do some cool things. Yeah. And so what's cool is like one of the first things Stephanie did is not only did she rent space out of an Airbnb, we have the whole manor and we actually have a cottage also that we rented the whole thing out. And I think that's beautiful. And we're going to have a show. We're going to focus on holistic health. The title is The Healer Within. Is that right? Something like that.
The stillness within.
The stillness within, right? Which is beautiful. That's how we can heal ourselves is by getting still and really getting in tune with our body, mind, and spirit and our energy and all that. So I am super excited. And we have 2 double rooms left and 1 single. Is that right?
2 double and 2 singles, 2 doubles, 2 singles in that, and then
Oh,
we're
2
sold
singles.
out. So we've sold out over half, or about half.
Yeah. Okay, so when you're listening to this, and if you're a woman and you want to have this holistic experience for 4 days, November 6th, 2025 in Virginia, please reach out. And if you're listening to this way in the future, we know podcasts last for many, many years. We may be offering another retreat. So definitely get in contact with us and we'll have all that information in your show notes. And so, Stephanie, let's pivot a little bit. Thank you for being here to help me celebrate our new venture together. It's going to be wonderful healing for us too.
Yeah.
Being in a healing community is a beautiful thing. So, Stephanie, as you know, my audience, the people listening are trauma survivors. And oftentimes when I have a guest on the show, they are also trauma survivors. Sometimes not. Sometimes they're just healers, not just, but they don't have a trauma history per se or a significant one. So out of connection with the audience, is there a trauma that you're willing to share today? Like you've done enough healing on that you're comfortable sharing?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, one of the things that I had the opportunity to navigate and work through, and it has taken me many years, was a marriage of 16 years. I was married to someone that is who I would consider verbally abusive and coercive, controlling in many ways. And it was hard to see as I was in the experience. And it wasn't until I was really having some physical things start to show up and other things that I had gone back and forth to a therapist and found a therapist that was really the person that helped me work on myself, really, because to do anything for my kids or my life, I had to really work on me. And so I worked with this incredible therapist that helped me navigate what was happening, ask questions. I attended personal and group classes, and that's really where I was able to say, it's time for me to leave this marriage. I can't be controlled. I can't have this feeling of being on edge all the time, of not knowing if what I'm saying is right or wrong or good or bad or whatever the case may be. It's just a really good place that I got to with her to be able to make those changes.
Good. And so that was a bit of time ago. So I'm guessing you've done other things other than the therapy and the support group. I'm guessing just because you teach yoga and meditation, mindfulness stuff.
Yeah,
Maybe let me ask a better question. The skills that you teach how were they helpful to you during your healing journey?
yeah. So the
It's a better
biggest thing
question.
that I learned through my therapist and what I've carried on continually now as part of my healing is, number one, to sit in stillness and to be okay in stillness as long as it feels safe for me. And I'm very aware of my triggers or things that might come up. So I'm very cognizant of that. And I came to a lot of that through the journaling she had me do. The biggest thing she had me do that was so helpful for me was to create a list or a letter of what my ideal partner looked like. And from that, it was more, I want to say this loosely, but what I will and won't tolerate, what I can and can't hold space for, what is good and what's not good for me. And I really developed this pretty inclusive list and journaled on that, did a lot of meditating on that, did a lot of self-reflection on that. And lo and behold, so that was 2005 and 2006 that I worked with her. I separated from my ex-husband now, the fall of 2000, actually it was the fall of 2005, and then divorced in 2006 at the beginning of the year. And through that, I think it was a lot of the journaling, Karen, to be honest. It was a lot of, when I needed it, I would tap in with her. When I was feeling like I'd been, doing enough work, I would, meditate, do the things she had taught me. I did do some self-hypnosis with her, which was helpful. She would bring me to a safe place, and that worked for me. So those were kind of some of the modalities that worked for me.
I'm really glad you shared that. I think, we all heal differently, but a lot of the tools available, like if we customize those tools to fit our unique needs, it can be really powerful. So I'm glad that was helpful to you. Now, Stephanie, I know you do a lot of traveling because of your business. How do you go about making sure that you're taking great care of yourself when you're doing all this traveling?
Yeah, I have come to a lot of routines over the years of knowing how to minimize jet lag, how to pack more efficiently as I've gone along. I've gotten much more efficient, how to know when I get to a place what I need to do to kind of be careful not to get sick, because traveling long distances and being overseas and all that kind of stuff, your body can get worn down. So I really have a lot of tips and tricks that I've just taught myself. Use a lot of essential oils. I use a lot of herbal and natural remedies that I just start kind of increasing before I go and take, and then really staying quiet and still. So being in that place of quiet that I can do a lot of self-reflection. One of the things I was going to just tap back in on, Karen, one of the things that I loved about working with my therapist is she required me to do homework. She was the first therapist that made me do a lot of homework. And I think that's why I was so successful with her, and maybe not with a few others, was, I had to do the work. I had to bring it in. And I think that's why I've carried some of that forward in some of my other practices. When I need something, or I'm feeling a little off or whatever, I can just go back to that. Okay, what did, her name was Joanne. What did Joanne teach me? What were some of the skill sets that I learned there? And it has helped me kind of come back into those practices when I need them.
I love it. I think I would love Joanne. I am a royal pain in my clients' arses, because I'm like, if you don't, like, talk therapy research wise has low efficacy. If you really want to work on change, you got to do work. You got to do those assignments. I no longer call it homework. I call it action plans. They
Yeah,
sit a little better with my clients.
sure.
The word homework is a little triggering for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I love that. That's really important. And I want to go back to the self-care practices you have for traveling. I think that would be an excellent little class to offer, especially our women's business communities
Sure.
who do travel.
Yeah.
That might
Yeah.
be a great class.
Yeah.
It
So
could be a funnel. Go ahead.
as I travel, one of the things I always take my yoga mat. So I have a travel mat that folds up into just this teeny tiny little square. It takes up hardly no room in my bag. I travel with my deflatable Pilates ball. I travel with a block, and I often will travel with a blanket. So all told, it may take up this much space. But it's really important for me to get up in the morning, and if my body needs it, I move right into some yoga. If it doesn't, I might do it in the afternoon or evening. But I always take those tools, because for me, over the years, I've practiced yoga since I was 29. I'll be 60 this year. I started that practice because it was a way for me to escape my little children and get some quiet. And what I've learned over the years is, when I lost my brother, when I've had, death or loss, when I've had the loss of my marriage, or anything that was really difficult for me, getting on my mat became this place where, once I stepped on, it was a sacred place that I created for myself. And I kind of have some little things I put at the top of my mat, some little, I'd call them trinkets, but that's what they, they're special things to me. But that's what my practice has done for me over the years. So traveling with those little tools, knowing that I always have them with me, has become a key part of my health and healing as well.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah. I travel now with a neck fan because I know me, and I know I don't do well when I'm going through menopause. I don't do well being overheated. And so it's just nice. I enjoy myself more with that on.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think, you have so much wisdom and knowledge on this topic that I think having a class, either to funnel people into your programs or offering a paid class, I think it would do well. I actually paid for classes on how to just pack more efficiently, because I did a lot of traveling last year. So I'm definitely better with packing, and you're not going to find 8 pairs of shoes in my bag ever. We have to be strategic with our
Yeah.
choices. So I think women who travel would really love to hear your tips and tricks, because
Yeah.
I know
Thank
you have
you.
a few. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll put that together. That's a great idea, Karen.
Yeah, I just came up with it now. If I would buy it, I'm thinking other people would buy it.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got you doing retreats, and do you see clients one-on-one right now to work with them on yoga, or is it mostly group practice?
I do. I have a couple of private clients. One is a professional athlete. She's a figure skater. She skates in the seniors, 65.
Oh,
And then I have a couple of others that just tap in and out based on what they need and what, how things are feeling or looking or whatever. But I do private lessons and then I do class practice, but all online. Everything for me has stayed online. So easy to kind of practice from wherever you are.
awesome. Okay, so as you know, again, my audience is people that have really suffered and struggled. Some people may be still stuck in that, and other people are somewhere in the healing journey. But let's say that there's somebody that's listening today and that hasn't had a lot of opportunities to work on their healing yet. What do you think is like a really good foundational first step for them, like that you think from your experiences would be a good place to start?
Well, if we think about from a yoga perspective, mindfulness is the best place to start, I think. Meditation can be very hard for people, and mindfulness is a form of meditation. But mindfulness is just really stopping, starting to tune in to the mind, body, and spirit and be present and aware of things. So when you're in a place of mindfulness, it helps you to really understand, okay, my breath is, shallow. I need to do this. My, whatever's happening in your body, you can really tune in. So I think mindfulness would be the first practice I would recommend. And there are several pieces of mindfulness. It's a whole class, but that would be where I would start. Tagging together with the mindfulness is a lot of breath work. So I do a lot of breath work, and there's several different practices. When I teach breath work, there's 3 different categories you can put breath work into, and we put them in the form of beverages. So if you think about coffee breath, is more of this uplifting practice. It's not for everybody, but if you're in the middle of the afternoon and you're super tired, doing this type of breath would be a wake me up breath. Then there is a water breathing and a whiskey breathing. So water breathing would be more of a kind of a midday. Whiskey would be more of this quiet, calming breath. And
I have not
within,
heard of the whiskey before. That's fascinating.
yeah. So really the water and the whiskey, what differentiates them, there's a lot of similar practices you can use in both categories, but the difference is the amount of time you put between a breath and the speed of the breath. So where we might do, let's see, where I would call a box breathing or a 4-2-4-2 breath, where you inhale for 4, pause for 2, exhale for 4, pause for 2. In a whiskey breathing, you might inhale for 5, hold for 3, exhale for 5, hold for 3. So you're just slowing, so the pace becomes much slower between those two. Now, coffee breath is very, very different. And I teach that to very few people. And the reason is it is not a breath for everybody. So I really ask a lot of questions before I teach that. Typically, if I'm doing in a group class, I might say, adjust based on how your body's feeling. But the other 2 are what I teach more. And I would put those 2 practices, either one of them, in with a mindfulness practice, because it's very helpful to slow the body down and really working on the parasympathetic system.
Right. Yeah, most of us overachievers benefit more from slowing down.
Yeah, yeah,
We
true.
already speed up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But I could see like someone maybe that was chronically fatigued, how that type of breathing might be a little more energetic for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a practice that I'm not afraid to teach. I teach it all the time. I'm just more cautious with who I'm teaching it to make sure that they know the ways to kind of come in and out of it. Just, again, it's easy. There's nothing right or wrong about it. It's just one that with coffee breathing that I'm just a little more nuanced with to make sure I know who I'm teaching it to.
Got it. Well, that's awesome, Stephanie. I think you have a lot of talents and gifts to share with people, which is really a wonderful thing. If somebody is curious about you and they want to learn more about you or look into the programs and services you offer, what is the easiest way to find you?
Best way would be you can email me at tolyogastudio@gmail.com. You're also welcome to jump on the studio website. It has all of our classes. But if you really want to touch in with me, contact me by email, or you're always welcome to call or text. I'm an open book. I have no problem with, sharing that information. The website is treeoflifeyoga.studio. And that's a great place to get resources and also to introduce you to who I am and all of my training and certification. I'm a Yoga Medicine Therapeutic Specialist. I've got over 500 hours. I'm close to 650 now, working on my 1,000 hour. So you can know a little bit more about what I'm certified in. And then my business partner, Whitney Davis, is also on there, and she is in Arizona. So she is a newer yoga teacher, but all of her information is there as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie, so much for being a guest on my podcast today. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you. I'm grateful to have this time together.
Thank you for listening in today. Please join us next week, same day and time. Also, I would love for you to check out my website, healthrivedream.com.
If you have suffered from emotional abuse of any kind, then your story is my story too. My name is Gina Coviello, and I know how it feels to be betrayed by people who are supposed to love you. I know the emotional pain of feeling utterly alone in the world, unable to feel safe with others. Embracing self-love changed my life and my relationship struggles. Self-love can do the same for you. Please join me on a path of healing through self-love. My story is your story too.